Welcome back to Veterans Claims Ambush. This is number 18. I don't know how many there will be because I want to do a full course. This is a college level course. Take notes, freeze the frame, look at these forms as I go over them, get these forms. Number 18. Hard to believe, isn't it? What's this? All right, I'm going to tell you what this is. You're back in the forest. Remember how I began this series? We're watching Deathwatch. I began this series by taking you into a forest and talking about an ambush. And you are in it. Let's see how part of it works. Oh, there's the black and white version. The reason I'm doing that is to show you that you can look at this any way you want, and you will come out into the same ambush. Today I want to talk about Deathwatch, because they know what it is and they'll use it on you. I've talked about claims, briefly touched on going to the Board of Veterans Appeals, and now I want to show you something that will probably cause you to, hopefully, get a lawyer. Look at this diagram. You know what's coming. I'm not your lawyer. I'm not giving you legal advice. I am very familiar with this material because of my own experience. My background is litigation. And I was judge advocate, active duty, 4 years in the Air Force. Go back to video 1 and you'll see what it is. I was stationed at 4 different bases, PCS, over 4 years, and each of them was, as it turns out, an environmental disaster zone. So I was drinking a mixture, a cocktail, if you will, of a little bit of jet fuel, maybe some benzene, a little bit of firefighting foam, and a couple of times, you know how it is, exposure to radiation, things like that, because you get around on the base when you're a judge advocate looking at different things for, accident boards, criminal conduct. It just goes on. So, no, I was not working at a desk, sitting in an office all the time. I was all over the place. Let's talk about Deathwatch, because then I'm going to show you what a case looks like, and I want you to be impressed with how this system's set up. Remember, I've told you the system was set up before you were born. I'm going to take a short break because my voice needs it. Right back. The beauty of cameras. Longer break than I thought. What is this? This is you. Right there. You filed a claim, and you thought that you'd go 125 days at VBA. I've told you that the people looking at your claim may not even be able to read the normal scientific peer, P-E-E-R, review articles that you can find on the internet. So in 125 days, that's what they've got, your file hits their mailroom by fax, by letter, maybe electronically. Be mindful. When you submit the claim, you lock yourself in. They at VBA are not locked in. They tell Congress all the time, hey, we'll get this done in 125 days because we're great. Meanwhile, they may not be able to read your evidence. And anyway, what happens if they don't? Well, they can go ahead and deny your claim. And then you have a decision. See, they've made their decision. They have said denial. You don't know who worked on it. You don't know what office worked on it. You think your regional office did it. Not necessarily. It may have been on the national work queue, which is a computer system that has a great, wonderful intention. Imagine that you have someplace with 100 offices, and you want to send the work to the office at that moment that has the least backup. Any office can handle it, so the computer will find the office that has the least backup, and it will send the work to that office. Now, what does that office have to do with that work? The answer is nothing. All they have to do is they have to touch it to say, oh, here it is, I looked at it, and put it back on the national work queue. It wasn't set up for that, but that's all they have to do. I took you through the Roanoke RO manipulation of appeals to hit bonus levels. And that was all about time. You see, if 125 is achieved by VBA, they get a credit towards their bonus. It doesn't matter what the quality of the decision is. It matters that a decision was taken. Okay, so denied. You get the decision. They send it to you by mail. I had a case where they still, a year later, these are my cases. I don't represent anybody in front of this thing. I wouldn't. Anyway, I can't because of my condition, but I wouldn't. Short break. Okay, I'm back. All right, so the decision comes in, and what I was laughing about was they despise me. And the reason they do is because I point things out to them about how they are actually working. So anyway, they refuse to send me 2 decisions. They won't send them to me. I got them otherwise, but they won't send them to me. I've been up at the BVA with the case, yeah, but even still, VBA refuses to send it to me. As far as I know, they have refused to send it to the BVA. But BVA can't enforce its judgments, so VBA is out there and can do anything it wants to you. Okay, so you've got a complex medical claim. Complex. You have found 100 medical journal articles on Google. You know more about this disease injury than probably 80% of doctors practicing because they specialize. And now you have specialized, not in just one area, but in your disease or injury within an area. So VBA will have an in-depth decision. They can't even read the journal articles. Okay, decision. So you say, okay, I'll file an appeal. And you'll see all this nonsense on the internet about, oh yes, file an appeal, and here are the statistics, and people will tell you, and do this and do that, and you've already had one decision. The appeal is going to take 125 days to do something. Your appeal might take 2 years. This is your appeal. This is your appeal. You don't know what even happened up here. Oh, they send you a decision, but you don't know who did it. You will not see the name of the individual. There's something that they fill out here, and you have to get it. It's called VBMS notes, and you have to do a demand under the Privacy Act to get these. You don't have to get notes over from the medical side at all. You don't have to do a demand to get copies of doctors and nurses and even the intake notes over at the medical side on blue button reports. Over here, you have to go through the Privacy Act to get their VBMS notes, and they won't give them to you. I have Privacy Act stuff out there for 2 years. I have a Privacy Act one. It's really funny. I sent it in and I said, I want to know who wrote, the name of the person or persons who wrote 2 attack letters to me. I'm going to show you some attack letters later. And they said, fine, that's, but we can't necessarily, you know how it is. And 2 years later, I'm going to have to take them into federal court. Short break. I'm back. Longer than normal. Okay, so you got a decision in secret, and you don't know who did it, and there's a decision, you say, I'll appeal. They're waiting for you. They are waiting for you. Now, this is the way the system was set up by Congress. VBA did not set up this system. Congress did. The decision that you got could be completely just paper whipped. I hit 125, I want my bonus. The appeal period where they're processing, it's so hard to process. I don't know why. If you walk into a court, you get a docket number when you file. You don't get one from BVA. You get a docket number when you file, and you see a calendar where your case is. You probably in short time will see which judge the case has been assigned to. Now, it is true that civil cases can take a long time. Short break. Back. It is true that a civil case can take a short time in a regular court, state or federal. There are reasons for that, called discovery. To see what the other side has, you have to give discovery. You may want to take depositions from witnesses. You're not allowed to do that here or here. See? And I'm talking about practically. I had a case where I filed some subpoena requests here. Totally ignored. 3 times I went back and said to them, subpoenas, subpoenas rule, ignored. And what you're going to find is that you'll be ignored here and you'll be ignored here. So if you file an appeal, just like here where you better load it up with everything you have, if you do this, get ready to load it up with everything you have. Remember, I showed you a page. And we have one here. You are going to take certain decisions if you appeal a case. You're going to have direct review or evidence submission. In other words, you file something and you've got 90 days to load it up. You're going to have a hearing with a veterans law judge, and then you can put things in at the hearing, but you have 90 days after the hearing to put things in. Who's going to read this? Who is going to read this? This is here, this area is an incredible series of decisions that you must take intelligently. And that's why I keep urging you, get a lawyer. Because a decision is going to be taken here not just by VBA, but by you. Am I going to appeal? And how am I going to appeal? Did I load this up entirely? Do I have more to show them? Remember, I told you, there's a seduction that goes on the used car lot. Most quickly. Hurry up, somebody wants to buy the car besides you. Got it? Choosing this option will extend the time. Your fault. Your fault. Look at this. My goodness, this will really extend the time. your fault. You're not going to D.C. Come on. You're not going to go to the regional office and have a hearing. You're going to do it by virtual telehearing, basically on Zoom. Come on. You see what's happening already? This form is used for the appeal. If you don't use this form, you can't appeal. This is it. This is a form-driven business. Don't assume you know how this is going to work. I'm going to take you through a case which is, I hope, going to shock you. It's pretty normal. Well, we're back at Deathwatch. So here's your appeal. They took a decision, and you're going to take a decision as to how to appeal and what you're going to put into this appeal. What makes you think if VBA can't read and understand something, that BVA can read and understand whatever you send them, which may be the same material that you sent VBA? Okay, now remember, you have no discovery. You have no affidavits from the VBA. Hey, did you understand this article? Did you read this article? You have nothing. You're totally blind. Fate has intervened. Fate has intervened. What the BVA can do. Let me tell you what they can't do. This is great. BVA cannot enforce its own judgments. I use the word judgment. They use a different term. They call it orders, findings. I call it a judgment. At the same time, my personal opinion is that it is not a court. Separate issue. Lawyers will have sat up with that one. So you appealed, and 2 years later, BVA issued a decision. Now, you will get a signed decision by a veterans law judge and a staff attorney who worked on the case with the veterans law judge. Clerks oftentimes write an opinion for the judge they work for in the federal and state system. But basically what happens is the judge says, look at this and tell me what you think. Then there's a little conference with the judge, and then the judge will say, okay, here's what I want to decide. Now research that. And you may get an opinion. It is sort of written by the judge. Sometimes they actually are, but oftentimes it's worked up. The bones of it and a lot of the flesh of it are worked up by the clerks, and then the judge will sit down and go through the whole thing and say, okay, I'm going to sign this, but I know that every judge who signs is very careful that their name is not going on until they are satisfied that it is the correct, not only judgment, but citation of authorities. Short break. Well, so these guys may not know what they're doing. And up here, okay, so who knows what they're doing? Short break. Okay, so who knows what they're doing? Who can read the articles that you have sent? Who is on the same par in science as you? And the answer is none of them. The answer is none of them. Here's why. Because all this time, they can send you out for a medical exam. They could send you to a specialist. They could send you, pick the best hospital in your area. Even beyond the VA hospital, pick the best one that you know of that you could get to. They could send you there. Let us say that you are dealing with an arthritis problem in your knees ankles, upper neck, and it's grinding you up. They could send you to that best hospital's department that analyzes exactly those injuries or disease. The best. They won't. What they're going to do, maybe here, and because they do it, it might take, 200 days. They'll send you for a C&P exam, a claims and pension exam, to an outside vendor who hires doctors, mostly internists from what I've seen, who will opine about your upper neck arthritic condition, which is based on a spinal fusion from a fall and is affecting not only your, nerves that spread around your bodies to your muscles, but also your direct cranial nerves. The ones that spread around, come down your backbone, are known as peripheral nerves. The ones that go directly into your brain are known as cranials. Hey, it's an internist. What do you want? Get this. The courts say, well, that's okay. I want you to imagine a federal judge has an arthritic condition in the upper spine due to compression injuries suffered maybe in the military, but maybe skiing, maybe because of old age, maybe from a fall, maybe from a car accident. And so this federal judge wants to get treatment because it is interfering in his ability to work. So you know what he does? He goes to an internist. Are you laughing? Come on, you can lighten up. So I want you to imagine the federal judge goes to an internist for an opinion. No, he doesn't. No, she doesn't. They go to the best doctor they can find who knows what they're doing in that area. And it may be a neurologist. It may be an orthopedist. And if surgery is needed, they may have to go to a neurosurgeon or an orthopedic surgeon who does upper back stuff on the backbone. Wait a minute. But the line is much shorter at the internist, who may be an expert on liver disease, gallbladders. You see? Well, they can both take your blood pressure. They can both put you on a scale and tell what you weigh, tell how tall you are. They can test out your feet to see if you have any feeling. You might be a diabetic. That's a peripheral nerve exam or a diabetic exam. VBA is not going to send you to the specialist. They're going to send you to an internist who works for a mill, who might see 10, 15 veterans in a day, maybe 20. And then VBA sends the questions to the internist. Get it? It could be a brain injury. Oh, here's the internist. So this goes to the appeal. Time, 2 years sitting around. What's happening to your file? Nothing. You're just waiting in line. You don't have a calendar you go to. There's no filing number you get. They'll get around to it. They have this make-believe rule that for 90 days, they don't have to do anything. Short break. I'm back. So VBA gets it. And let's say 2 years later, you get a decision out of VBA. It will be signed. And it by both the Veterans Law judge, and it will be signed by the staff attorney. I warned you early on, in I think my first lecture, that you will be facing the law 3838 United States Code and the Code of Federal Regulations, CFR. And you will get back an opinion that is a combination of macro inserts, artificial intelligence, and then individual commentary. And sometimes you will get what's called a remand. In fact, you'll get a lot of them. And here is where fate comes in. Or if you have been bad this year, karma, or last year, or the year before, or years ago that you can't remember, fate returns, karma is here because you may be remanded back here. Whoop, all the way back. But you've already filed. Well, yeah, but the remand will swing right through you and go right back to VBA. The same guys that could not read your application. They could not read. An application is the pages, I showed you what they are, and the attachments. It is one overall application. So when you load it up with scientific peer-reviewed articles that they couldn't read, they sent you for a claim and pension exam, C and P, and you swung around through a decision, and BVA said, here we go, remand back to, this wheel theoretically can go on forever. We are talking about years. And you're dealing with the same people who can't read. And they will send you out for another C and P. Funny story in a minute. I have to take a break. I'm back. As I indicated earlier, I discovered that these bases I was at were heavily polluted, and I was drinking all kinds of weird stuff every time I thought it was just coffee or tea. So, I had a C&P exam one time over here for what I would call a vanilla kind of injury and disease. And it gets upped at the VA, and I'll show you how this works. It went from 10% to 60% based on medical records from the VA Medical Center in DC. In other words, I had different types of testing done, photographs, analysis, and all that, and it went up as a matter of law. I'll explain that later. But they had sent me to this internist for something he was not familiar with. And they went back and forth with this guy, and they kept saying, hey, could this cause that? Could that cause this? And they kept writing to him. And they were pressuring him, obviously. And it got to the point where it was hilarious. And it was rejected in my appeal at BVA. So what I'm saying is I did a C&P. It was a disaster for the VBA. They wouldn't show it to me. I got it by other means. And it was just laughable. I have another one, which is caused by this pollution, this cocktail that I was drinking for 4 years. Which, by the way, I mean, it tasted pretty good, I guess. The coffee seemed fine. I was being poisoned all the time. So we go swinging around here, right? Fate. I'll tell you what fate is. I file a claim for this stuff I was drinking, basically. And I walk into the same guy. The same internist working for the same company, the vendor. And he's still doing these things. Very nice man. And I sit down and I say to him, hey, remember me? I remember you. Well, he doesn't remember me because, I mean, he sees a lot of people. And I say, we can cut this short. Did they send you the medical files at all? And he goes, no. No. It's like, why would they send me that? They didn't send him the medical files. Listen to what I'm telling you. They didn't even send him the medical files. Now, in fairness, my medical files are probably, I don't know, 800 to 1,000 pages. Even if they sent them, who's going to read them? You'd have to spend all day reading my stuff, wouldn't you? Why do you think they will treat you any differently from the way they treat me? Short break. Okay, I'm back. So you can be in this loop the whole time. What is happening is time is passing. I want to put you in the insurance business. You're sitting there at your desk, and you are an insurance salesman, and you're very good at your job. Your business is based on statistics. People called actuaries figure out at a certain age group with a certain level of health, what are the odds of somebody dying within that particular framework? And as grim as it may seem, they could figure this out. And that's how that business stays in business. I know what you're thinking. Insurance companies that do life insurance and all that, health insurance, their profit margin is when they refuse to pay, period. That's not what I'm talking about. Listen to what I'm saying. Actuaries are highly trained statisticians. They are not weirdo, making stuff up type of guys. These are highly trained statisticians, and they keep models. And they can tell you roughly how many people within this defined group, age, health, occupation, will die within this year, 2 years, 10 years, etc. They're pretty accurate. Something comes along like COVID, everything changes. But generally speaking, over time, they are pretty accurate. If you understand that concept, and if you understand that Deathwatch means that if you die while the wheel of fate is turning, and you're back, and their incentive over here is to do junk. You understand that? Get it out as fast as possible. Write something, write anything, have a decision, throw it up to these people, these poor. What do you think is the worst job in the world for a lawyer? Well, getting things from VBA has to be it, or one of them. So it goes up to BVA, it goes around the bend, comes back again, around the bend, comes back again. This could go on forever. Meanwhile, time is passing and you are already injured or diseased. Whose time is passing? Every day they work is a credit towards their career. Whose time is passing? Your time is passing. Denial, appeal to BVA, remand back to the same crowd. Deathwatch statistics, that's what it is, favor the house. If you are in the mill long enough, I've been doing this for over 10 years. If you're in the mill long enough, there is a very good chance that you may die. Now, what happens if you die? Short break. Let's see if I can finish this today. It's a little bit iffy. Deathwatch statistics favor the house. You go to Las Vegas, you roll the bones, you're on a winning streak. Go ahead, stay there all day, all night. You won't be on a winning streak. Ultimately, the house odds will come in. You know that before you walk in the door. Deathwatch is a statistics game. It favors the house. There's another statistical game that favors the house. It happens here. When you try your best to go through a claim with intelligent, relevant documents, and they don't have to read them, you will never be able to depose them to find out, did you read this document? Did you understand this document? Let's go through the document. You won't be allowed to do that. Their interest is that number. They tell this to everybody, Congress, the press, everybody, 125, that's the days. That's what they're interested in. So you get this, how many of you are going to appeal at all? They keep statistics. How many of you, when the BVA speaks with a decision, are going to appeal that to the Court of Appeals of Veterans Claims? How many of you are going to appeal that to the federal court? And that is a federal court. I'll talk to you about, and I'll show you some opinions from that federal court. It's called the Court of Appeals of Veterans Claims. It is not an Article III court established directly under the Constitution. If you read Article III of the Constitution, you will see it says certain courts will exist, such as the Supreme Court and the Federal Trial Court and the Federal Courts of Appeal. But Congress has the power to create other courts under Article I of the Constitution, which is about the Congress. An example is the tax court. It's a real federal court. It is a real federal court. The Court of Appeals of Veterans Claims is a real federal court. Okay, so what we're watching here is the selection of who is going to appeal the VBA decision. Not everybody will, even if it is a denial. And then who is going to appeal a BVA decision, all right, if you're not happy with it, because otherwise it may slip into remand, or it may just be a denial, which is basically to say that VBA got it right. Are we looking at this with clear vision? The people at VBA can't read your scientific data. They send you to an internist for a neurological problem, an orthopedic problem. Okay? Here's what they work with. And these guys up here, you're going to look at it and say, oh, I don't know about going to the CAVC. I need a lawyer for that. Oh, I don't know about that. Well, you needed a lawyer up here. They keep statistics on all of this. We're watching years go by. How ill are you? Let's take a look at something. I will periodically refer back to this wonderful chart. Okay? And let's take a short break before I do this. Okay, what are we looking at? We are looking at Exhibit A. Don't you like that? It's an Exhibit A. What's it for? This is what Deathwatch looks like. I want you to notice, and you can blow this up on your phone. Up here, we have numbers that identify this. You can go to the Board of Veterans Appeals website, and in their search, their word search for cases, you can actually pump in this number, these dates, etc. Why? Why would you want to do that? Well, because this is worth reading. This is a perfect opinion. This is what the law says, and it's my observation that the opinion, for its purpose, is perfect. Here's why. Due to the death of the veteran, the board has no jurisdiction. It can't even hear the case anymore. It has no jurisdiction. Jurisdiction is absolutely fundamental to getting in front of, let's say, a federal court or even the BVA, which is a creature of statute. It is created by federal law. Congress created it, and it said BVA has jurisdiction only in the following cases. Only in the following cases. One of them is where you are alive. It can't adjudicate the merits of this appeal regarding service connection for, here we go. What was this case about? Depression. The vet's name is not on here. Service connection for insomnia and a higher disability rating for surgical scar residual to left groin hernia and a TDIU at this time. Now, remember I told you, you're going to see in opinions 38 USC, right? That's the law. That is the federal law. And it tells you a section number, 7104. When VA then puts its operational rules together, our first lecture, 38 CFR. So here's the law, and here's how VA will follow the law. So 38 United States Code, 38 CFR. Now these numbers, you see, will often be different, but it's the same general title or volume. Reasons and basis for finding and conclusion. Remember, in my opinion, this is a perfect document. The appeal arose from a February 2018 rating decision in the regional office, the RO. Let's take 2018 and let's take a look at this date, 2021. It's not just 2021. Observe, February 2018, right? So that's the second month. This is 3 years later, and it is the 10th month. So it is 2 and a little over a half years, 2.5 years later. 2.5 years later, he's dead. Case law says that a veteran has a property right claim when he files. He has a property right claim. Do you own a car? Do you own the clothes you're wearing? What would happen if I said to you or asked you, if you die, right, can the government just say to your heirs, as an example, you don't own any of his property. Doesn't matter if he had a will or not, or you're proceeding under estate law. You know, the blood relatives, they don't get to take anything unless they file within 1 year with the government. Otherwise, nobody owns the stuff. It's gone, extinguished. They don't own the car, and they don't own the clothes that you're wearing. You know that beautiful $20,000 Sable. Your heirs don't own it. What's that? You have a Chevy Extravaganza truck that you paid $85,000 for? Sorry. You owned it. You died. It doesn't go to anybody unless they file a specific form within 1 year. Short break. You get a sense of where I'm going with this? I'm back. So we talked about the time, talked about statistics, favor of the house. In that decision, the RO denied service connection for depression and service connection for insomnia. But they granted service connection for surgical scar residual to left groin hernia and assigned a disability rating of 0%. Hey, he won. He won. But see, he got it's service connected. Oh, let's see. So here he won, and he got 0%. Okay. Did he win? Did he get anything? Of course he won. It's service connected. It's rated at 0. Okay. Unfortunately, the veteran died during the pendency of the appeal. As a matter of law, this is perfect. Appellants' claims do not survive their death. And these are actual cases. Zevalkink versus Brown. And then it tells, you can look this up. You can put this on Google. Google this name in and put in 102 F dot 3D for F third 1236. Now, quite frankly, if you put in Zevalkink versus Brown, comma 102, you'll probably hit the case and you can read it. And this is from the DC Federal Circuit Court of Appeals. This is heavyweight stuff. The only place after that is the U.S. Supreme Court. So we have a case that says claims do not survive their deaths, right? And that's from the Fed Circuit. And then we go to, and this is the way you cite cases, the lower court, and it says Smith versus Brown, and this is how you write 10 vet period app period 330, and that is the Court of Appeals of Veterans Claims. This is what they call their reporter. This is how the books come out, if you will. That's what they're called. And then it goes through another case, Landico versus Brown, 7 vet appeal 4-2. You can look these up. But that's not all. Now you understand, this is clearly, the courts are saying, and the board is inferior to each of these citations from courts. So the board has no choice. The board has no choice. They're not wrong on this. This appeal on the merits has become moot by virtue of the death of the veteran and must be dismissed for lack of jurisdiction. And here is the controlling aspect. 38 U.S.C. Section 7104A. You can look this up. This is Congress speaking. And this is the VA speaking. And all they're doing here at 38 CFR, Section 2.20.1302, all they're doing in the CFR is saying this is how we at VA implement Congress controls. In reaching this determination, the board intimates no opinion as to the merits of this appeal or to any derivative claim brought by a survivor of the veteran. And here we see 38 CFR. Okay. Well now, what happened to that Chevy truck and that beautiful sable fur coat? You had a property right in the claim. You had a property right in that beautiful Chevy truck and in the beautiful sable coat. So the board is telling you we have no choice. This is the federal law. These are the cases that interpret that. The board's dismissal of this appeal, so you're dead, but you're really dismissed, does not affect the right of an eligible person, this is a defined term, to file a request to be substituted as the appellant for purposes of processing the claim to completion. Such request must be filed not later than 1 year after the date of the appellant's death, which is earlier than this date. See? This date is October 27th of 2021. When did the veteran die? Well, the first thing that people did probably was not jump up and start filing at the VA to be substituted to own the Chevy truck or the beautiful sable coat. Well, maybe they did. But if they did, they wouldn't have to write this opinion. They would be saying, and the eligible person, a defined term, has already filed the appropriate form within 1 year, and so we're going to decide this case. Obviously, here they have not signed the form yet. As you read this opinion, when did the veteran die? I don't know. Okay, so we got the 1 year, and we are back to who says so? 38 USC, 38 CFR. A person eligible for substitution includes a living person who would be eligible to receive accrued benefits due to the claimant under section, there you go, 5121. 38 USC 5121A. Who could this be? Who could get accrued benefits? You have to look it up. Well, an eligible party seeking substitution in an appeal that has been dismissed by the board due to the death of the veteran should file a request for substitution with the VA office from which the claim originated. That is the law. And sometime within the next, well, let's see, within this century. No, it could be within this century, yeah. They'll get around to it. See, you're dead. And even if somebody steps in to substitute, as an example, a spouse, and says, I'm a person who would be entitled to accrued benefits under the law because I'm a spouse. Well, I don't know if that's going to work. Because you got to get in line at the VA, at the VBA. All right. That's enough for this one, because I can't speak any longer. We're going to pick this up again. Hey, the next one will be number 1919. Get a lawyer.